Greenpoint, Williamsburg. I'll just give you a little identity of where we are. Okay, here's Manhattan. Here's the Williamsburg Bridge. And I took the mayor here before he was mayor. 2-mile stretch of waterfront. 2 miles. This is Queens. This is Newtown Creek. This is the East River. This is the east side of the East River. 2 miles completely abandoned. A chain link fence run all around this perimeter. Same time, this is Williamsburg. This is Greenpoint. Gorgeous, low scale, two of the hottest neighborhoods in New York. It has a mix of light industry and housing. Young people love to live in this neighborhood, to such a degree it almost became too hot because there's such a desire to live there. It had such a great character. But this was an opportunity to build 10,000 units of housing, really enormous. Very, very fine-grained zoning. This is some of the blocks here. They look so great. So we concentrated on the waterfront. The city is going to invest in a major park right at the heart of the water's edge. And what we had to do is figure out an urban design strategy to leverage a lot of development, but have it give some kind of a skyline. So this was our strategy. This is the rezoning plan. A undulating skyline so that we let it go up as high as 400 feet with the inclusionary housing, but the building next door to you has to be 100 feet shorter. So there's an undulating skyline, incentivizing point towers rather than slabs, and every one of these developments has to build its piece of a waterfront esplanade. It runs for 2 miles, and 2 of these buildings are already under construction. A quarter mile of that esplanade will be built, and you can see how these buildings transition down to the neighborhood. So they go from being very tall to dropping down to 6 stories. So very tight urban design controls and very tight controls on the waterfront, so that there have to be view corridors, there have to be upland connection. That means tree-lined streets all the way to the existing streets to bring people down to the waterfront. And again, that people can see and be incentivized to go to the waterfront, and that this area cannot be privatized for private use only. So each one of these developers is turning their property over. We have an incentive to the Parks Department, so there'll be sort of uniform standards of maintenance and accessibility. These are some of the developments that are going up. Each one is building some great waterfront parks, also water taxi docks as well. And it's just a fantastic new neighborhood. Very, very excited about it. Now, this indeed, as John said, is a great project. It is my favorite project. The High Line is an elevated abandoned railway track that took meat down to the meat market in Lower Manhattan. It runs for 22 blocks. Here it starts, it begins for Meat Market right here. It runs right through Chelsea, through the Art Gallery District in Chelsea, then bends around at 30th Street and ends up through the Hudson Yards at 34th Street. The demolition, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. It's so cool. It is absolutely great. This is, again, taken from an elevation, 22 feet up in the air, and it runs for 22 blocks, 23 feet up in the air. It's narrow. Sometimes buildings come really close to it, and sometimes they step away, and every block you can see all the way to the river. And the former mayor was determined to take it down. Isn't this great? It just looks like it had got these opportunistic plants. It's like a garden in the sky. It's like a magic carpet. And when you're up there, you see the city from a whole new vantage point, and it's just spectacular. And, you know, I always thought, and the Friends of the High Line thought, this would add value to the real estate. And so we wanted to do several things here. We wanted to save the High Line, transform it into a park. We wanted to preserve the gallery district so it didn't have pressure from housing on it. And we wanted to create housing as well on the perimeter. So this is what zoning plan looks like, and the High Line runs all the way through here. So this is 10th Avenue, this is the Meat Market, this is 30th Street. So we incentivized housing around 10th and 11th Avenue. And here was the situation, was that the people who own land under and adjacent to the High Line, of course they wanted it ripped down because they couldn't realize any value for their property. So we just used an old tool, a zoning tool, which is, okay, here's the High Line, this is a section. This is the High Line. This is people who own land around the High Line. We let them transfer their development rights to any properties. We limited the height on 10th or 11th Avenue, unless you buy air rights from these guys. And the federal government wouldn't turn over the High Line. It was owned by the federal government until the 38 property owners signed on. After we developed this transfer of development rights scenario, they signed on, and we got it. And it's going to open at the end of this year. And we have very tight design controls on this. So here's the High Line running through. Every building has to step back and away from it. And this is right at the the beginning of the meet. This is the beginning of the High Line. It was just chopped off here. This is Gansevoort Street. This is going to be the new Whitney Museum, the new downtown branch of the Whitney Museum. It's going to look really fantastic. Diller Scafidio and Renfro, the designers, with Jim Corner. This is the new High Line. It looks like the old High Line. It would be really fantastic. This is just part of it. It just will change all along its length, and it'll be one of the great, attractions in the city or even in the world. And I'm really, as you can tell, really, really excited about it. Now, of course, everybody said nothing will develop around the High Line. Well, it's become this incredible magnet for some of the greatest architects in the world who are all competing to build there. And just to show you some, this one is almost up. This is by Annabelle Seldorf. This one is up. Audrey Matlock, Jean Nouvel's building is up. And I think you already have seen Frank Gehry's building. And this is another one by Neil Denari. So very innovative architecture, which always makes a great city. It makes a city young, exciting, and really attractive to everybody, to tourists and residents. And I'm really, really excited about it. This is the 31 projects that are already either in construction or in plan and beginning construction this year. So excited about that. But then getting back to one of the principles I talked about early on is protecting neighborhood character. And as I said, the zoning had not been looked at since 1961. So, and mostly that was a broad brush zoning, which meant there were two different zones. You were either this or you were this. And it didn't reflect anything about individual neighborhoods. So we've